Ooh, look at all these geese. Boy, we had a good morning. We got lots of geese here. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table. And today I'm gonna make goose lettuce wraps. I'm gonna take this goose meat, chop it up finely, and make lettuce wraps. It's gonna be wonderful. Looks like I have some work to do, so I'm gonna head on back. Outdoorsmen have been providing fresh food for American family tables for generations. Hunting and fishing is a way of life for our family, and we enjoy cooking delicious fish and game meals. We want to share our recipes with you. This week we are making goose lettuce wraps, Asian slaw, a raspberry mousse for dessert,
Yum!
and a twist on the Moscow Mule with huckleberry infused vodka. This is Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table. Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table. I'm Rich Harrod, coming to you from the Whitewater Lodge in Leavenworth, Washington. This is a great place for a group of people to come and stay, or in our case, we love cooking our fish and wild game here. Today we're making goose lettuce wraps with a side of rice and Asian slaw. We'll have a raspberry mousse for dessert, and we're gonna make a twist on the old Moscow Mule with some huckleberry infused vodka and ginger beer. It's gonna be delicious. To get started, we have our goose breast right here that I'm gonna cut up for the goose lettuce wrap. And the way this works is not only the meat, but the vegetables that I'm gonna put in there, we need to cut up finely. And so to start with, I'm going to just take this goose and clean it up a little bit. Before I do that, I need to sharpen my fillet knife here on the work sharp. And mine's pretty sharp already. I have the honing belt on here, so I'm just going to give it a couple passes. When you're cleaning up the goose meat, the main thing you have to worry about, like in our case since we're hunters, is the fact that there could be steel shot. That might break somebody's teeth. The nice thing is we're cutting up fine, so it's not too bad, but we just want to make sure maybe we get some of this fat off of here and some of the gristle. And then all I'm going to do is just cut this into some strips. That's why I like using a fillet knife, because it kind of allows me some flexibility with the knife to make some nice cuts here. And like I say, I'm just going to be using this half. I'm going to strip this down because I really want to make this nice and fine, just like that. Just take me a few minutes here and I'll get all this sliced up. Okay, I'm just about done cutting up the goose meat. You want to get it just as fine as you can do it. It is a little bit hard, and so if you cut it into strips and try to bunch it up, it works pretty well for you. So when I get done here, I'll have about 1.5 cups of finely cut up goose meat. In addition to that, here are the other ingredients you'll need for the lettuce wraps: onion, carrots, celery, water chestnuts. Okay, looks like I have all my goose meat cut up, and now I'm just going to transfer the meat to a bowl and set it aside for later. Oh, it already smells wonderful. Now before I start cutting on my vegetables, I want to have a new cutting board. So now all we need to do is take our celery, carrots, onions, and water chestnuts, and we just need to chop them finely as well. The amount of vegetables that you use for this is kind of by taste. I figure about 2 average stalks of celery, a couple carrots, maybe 1.5 carrots, and then 1/2 an onion. Probably about right for this. If you're making it for a larger group of people and you're using a whole goose breast, then you want to probably almost double your vegetables. Okay, those look pretty good for celery, so I'll just transfer these to a bowl and I'll work on cutting up the other vegetables. Okay, have the water chestnuts all cut up, and I'm going to transfer them to a little bit different bowl here because they're going to go in when we start cooking this last. We're not going to saute them very long as we cook them. And then I'm I'm going to take these vegetables and our goose meat, put it in the fridge, set it aside for a little bit later. I can't wait to cook this up. Coming up after the break, I visit with wildlife biologist Andrea Lyons and learn more about goose migration and why their meat is so dark red. And Vicki makes an Asian slaw. Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table is brought to you by Worksharp, Miklich, Harrod Outdoors online store. This is Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table. Well, today I'm with Andrea Lyons, a wildlife biologist and a longtime friend of mine, and I thought it might be interesting for you to tell me a little bit more about geese. We're cooking with geese today. Why the heck is that meat so red?
Well, geese work pretty hard when they're migrating,
Yeah.
and those mussels have to do a lot of work. So unlike turkeys and chickens that live in our yards, there's a lot more red blood cells that are working to feed those mussels. That myoglobin protein in there gives it that dark red color.
And so they migrate a long ways here in North America, don't they? Like, where do they go from where to where?
From, you know, up in, obviously the Canada goose, so from up in Canada all the way down into central southern Mexico.
Yeah, that's a long ways.
A long ways. And one of the things I have always found so fascinating is that they travel those long distances, fly for a long period of time, but that mussel still stays so tender.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. It's wild.
It's lean, but it is like one of the most tender meats that you'll ever do. Yeah.
Really rich.
It's really good. And so when we hunt them, you know, we find them in fields. I'm assuming they really are after grains. I mean, that's kind of what their main diet is.
Right, that's the bulk of it. They'll feed on insects, sometimes small fish or other things, but yeah, the bulk of it is going to be some of that vegetation. It's easy for them to get to.
And it seems like populations are doing really well, is that right?
Very well, ask any golfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Fish and Wildlife Service estimated there's about 5 million breeding pairs.
Holy
and so
smokes.
That's like 10 million geese in the continental U.S.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of geese.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Good hunting opportunity.
Yes, definitely.
All right, well, thanks for taking time to visit with me. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Welcome back to Whitewater Lodge here in Leavenworth. Richie got that meat all ready for those goose wraps, and I'm gonna make some Asian slaw. You'll need some white cabbage, some purple cabbage, some carrots, a green onion, some salted peanuts, and some fresh cilantro. We'll get started on the slaw. First thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna put in my carrots, put those into the bowl right there. I'll save my peanuts for just a minute, and then I finally slice this green onion. So I slice it up the nice sharp knife. Okay, and I'll get that right into my bowl. And so now I'm going to add my purple cabbage. And I slice that up pretty fine as well. I love the color of this. It's so pretty. It adds such a dimension to our slaw. Now I'm going to cut up the green cabbage. Just the same way in nice thin little slices. Next thing we'll do is we'll give a rough chop to the cilantro and the peanuts and get them in the slaw. Now it's time to make the dressing for our slaw, and this is what you're going to need. You'll need honey, rice vinegar, vegetable oil, soy sauce, peanut butter, sesame oil, salt and pepper to taste, chili sauce, fresh ginger, and a clove of garlic. First thing I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cut up this fresh ginger. I only need a little bit, so I'm just going to chop it really fine. Okay, and I'll put that in my little bowl, my dressing bowl. The next thing I'll do is I'll chop up 1 clove of garlic. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my sesame oil and some vegetable oil, some rice vinegar, soy sauce, peanut butter, need a couple of teaspoons of honey, and I'll just give that a little squirt. Then just a little bit of this sriracha. There we go. And then I whisk it all together. I will just put that right onto our slaw. I'll take my tongs and I'll give it a really good toss here. I'll just put this in the fridge until we're ready to eat.
Coming up next, I cook the goose mixture and prepare for a homemade meal. Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table is brought to you by Work Sharp, Micklich, Harrod Outdoors online store. This is Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table. Well, I think it's time to get started with our main meal, and the first thing we're going to do is get the rice on. And with our rice, it's kind of the normal 2 to 1. What I have is 2 cups of water and 1 cup of rice. That's enough for Vicki and I. Go ahead and move this stuff on over by the stove so I have a little easier access to it. Here are the ingredients that you'll need. Diced onions, carrots, celery, and water chestnuts, teriyaki sauce, fresh grated ginger, and Harrod's Cookhouse game bird and chicken seasoning. First thing I need to do is warm up my pan. And I'm put some olive oil in here. This looks pretty good. We'll let that warm up. We have romaine lettuce, has a cup shape to it to hold all the ingredients. Now what I like to do is just cut off the bitter end and a little bit of the leafy end as well. Usually there's little brown parts on it. And then I'm just going to separate these and see how this just makes a perfect little boat almost. And that's what's going to hold our goose and the vegetables that we're cooking over there. I don't know, just however many you want. Depends on how many of these that you think you can eat. 2 or 3 probably. So it looks like those will work well. And let's see if we can get our goose and vegetables going here. Well, I can see that the olive oil is browning up a little bit, so I'm going to turn this down on at least medium, and we'll go ahead and get the goose meat in. Oh yeah, nice and hot. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Now, one of the things that I like to do is get the game meat started before I put the vegetables in so that you don't really have any blood that are soaking into your vegetables. I'm going to use our game bird and chicken seasoning. Just give this a little additional flavor. I'm just going to sprinkle that on. Oh, this smells wonderful. All right, I'll keep stirring this around. Looks like my rice is boiling over here, so I'm going to turn that down on low. Put it on simmer. We'll just put this lid on a little bit sideways. Okay, as soon as the meat just browns, then we can start adding our other vegetables. So that looks pretty close. So let's go ahead and add the vegetables. So remember I had carrots, onions, and celery. Look at that. Oh my goodness. That looks pretty good right there. I'll get these in here as well. Oh, it's just smelling wonderful. I'm gonna let these cook down just a little bit. And then the next thing I'll add is some teriyaki sauce. Oh, that smells nice. Okay, now that the vegetables have sweat down a little bit, I'll go ahead and add my half a cup of teriyaki sauce. Oh, man. I'm telling you, it just smells so wonderful. Now what I want to happen here is I want this to reduce by about half. So just need to let it simmer on its own for a second, occasionally stirring it. I'm going to put the water chestnuts and the fresh ginger in kind of right at the end before I take it off. And it looks like our goose meat mixture here has reduced by half. So I'm going to go ahead and add the water chestnuts. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is that normally when we cook goose or duck is that we don't usually cook it very long. And because when you cook goose and duck meat medium rare, it has a very mild flavor. If you overcook it, that's where people go, oh, it tastes gamey to me, which is just a strong flavor. But we've added so many nice flavors that it really doesn't matter. We're not going to have that strong gamey flavor that people talk about. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grate a little fresh ginger, and I'm just going to put in and just stir this around. I'm going to go ahead and plate this up. I've got this nice little plate here. Oh, Vicky's going to like this. And that'll make several of these wraps. I'm just going to leave that right there. And the next thing we need to do is plate it up. Coming up after the break, we serve all that we have prepared and enjoy a summer afternoon. A raspberry mousse completes our wild game meal. The fresh raspberries are great. Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table is brought to you by Worksharp, Micklich, Harrod Outdoors online store. This is Harrod's Cookhouse Field to Table. All right, let's go ahead and plate all this up. What do you say?
That sounds good. Okay,
It smells so good.
some of this good slaw. Nice and crispy. Yum.
And put some
Perfect.
rice on there.
Sure.
Well, I thought what we would do is just put a little bit of sesame seed oil and a little soy sauce just on the top, just a little drizzle.
All right, drizzle away.
Yeah, I just say put just a little, like that. Maybe just a little soy sauce. Oh, you think we'd went to a fancy restaurant?
You would, wouldn't you? Wow, this
You want
looks
to take
delicious.
those out to the outside on the deck, and I'll make us a drink.
Oh, that sounds great.
All right.
See you in a minute. Oh,
Here's our twist on the old Moscow Mule. Like I mentioned before, we have a huckleberry vodka. Just got a couple ounces. I'm going to put that in each glass with ice. And then some ginger beer. Oh, it's going to be delicious. I'm going to give them a squeeze of lime. And then a little garnish of some fresh mint. All right, I'll join Vicky on the deck. All right, here's our vodka drink.
all right. And look at the pretty color.
Yeah, a little mint. Probably just
Right.
push it down more so you can
Yeah.
drink it. Wow, those are really
Oh,
good.
that's good.
Those
I
are
like
really good.
that. This looks delicious.
How about that, huh?
Can't wait.
Always nice being outside.
It is.
That's wonderful.
That cilantro is so good.
Yeah.
Oh. It's a great way to have goose.
Oh, man. While you're finishing up, I'm going to run back in and make dessert this time.
Oh, wow, all right. Sounds good.
Well, that was a delicious meal. Vicky's still outside enjoying the nice weather. I'm going to make this raspberry mousse. The way we start out is we take 2 cups of frozen raspberries, and we're going to put it in this food processor. Now, a little bit about this food processor. This was a wedding gift for Vicky and I some 30 years ago. Okay, that's pretty good. Next thing I'm going to add is some sweetener, and this I'm using a little agave syrup for something different. You could use honey, And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pulse this up a little bit. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is add an egg white. Now, if you don't want to use a raw egg, you can use a pasteurized egg white. And here we want to go for about 2 to 3 minutes to get this smooth and creamy. All right, the colors become nice and light. You can see that there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spoon this out into some ramekins, and then I'm going to top it with some Cool Whip and some fresh berries. I think Vicki will like this. She's the one that normally makes the dessert, so a treat, I guess, for her this time. I'm doing it. Put a little bit of whipped cream on top, just like that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is put some fresh raspberries. All right, there we go. Head on outside. Here's a raspberry mousse.
Oh, look at that. That looks delicious. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, that's
Yum.
nice on a warm day. On this summer evening, those cold winter mornings, hunting geese in the field seem to be a very distant past.
Just perfect with that slaw and those Asian kind of flavors.
And so ends another journey from field to table.